We are in Arizona, which is the southwest United States. It's actually, if you watch any cowboy movies, like old Wild West films, towns and cities where really famous cowboys lived and worked and hung out, like Doc Holliday and all those guys. So there's a lot of famous people came through here. And I mean, we're basically out, this is the Wild West. It's the frontier still. We're in an area where there's really little oversight on building and things like that. So you have a lot of freedom out here still. Yeah, so with EarthBlossom Manor, the whole idea is to help our audience be able to participate in the development and maintenance of projects that we do around the ranch. And farming and ranching has a lot to do with animals and plants. So the funds that we get in through pack sales is actually used, 25% of it is going straight towards taking care of things at EarthBlossom. Just like with Name the Goats, when you buy packs on the Name the Goats drop, that will be happening for 2 weeks. Every time you buy a pack, 25% of that money is actually going towards taking care of the goats. We want to be able to make a larger area for them to be fenced in. Right now, they're at about 1.5 acres. We want to get that up to 10 acres. And we just have temporary electric fencing right now. That's only going to last for a few years before we start having a lot of problems with it and having to repair it all the time. So we want to get a more permanent fence in place. So Name the Goats is going to help fund some of that fence installation and buying the materials. So the pack drops aren't scheduled yet. We're still doing testnet stuff. So we actually have to get the website. So when anybody makes a new entry into the game, when they name a goat with one of the NFTs, we want it to automatically update on our website so that the leaderboard shows which name is winning in the event. Our hope is that EarthBlossom and the McGoatersons will be around forever. The whole reason we're starting this up is to help members to be able to interact better within their communities and have everything be efficient and make sure people have all their basic needs met, as well as the opportunity to grow economically and, spiritually as well. Also, the McGoatersons, that's a lineage, that's a herd of goats that as they keep reproducing, there's going to be more McGoatersons and more McGoatersons. So we're hoping that's going to be around forever as well. Yeah, there's 6 of us total. Everyone's kind of freelancing right now, but they all do have a lot of faith in the project and want to be a full-time team member. Some people are just kind of doing things out of their own goodness of their heart to help the project, and others aren't really in a position to do that. So we are giving them some crypto to help get them, to help pay for some of the time that they've been putting into the project. But other people are fine with us just giving them some of the EB Green EarthBlossom currency that's on Wax. Yeah, that's a good question. We're working on stuff like that. So as far as securing land goes, a lot of people want to, in life, they want to own a piece of property, right? Well, owning a piece of property doesn't really exist unless you're a government. Governments are what actually own property, and as citizens of a country, we're really just renting property from our governments. It's registered in our name. We're allowed to do things on the property that we find fit, but in reality, there's always somebody that can come to your property and tell you what to do. So owning property is a good thing because you have the value that's built behind it. Every time you sell the property, you can get the money goes to you. It doesn't go to the government. Part of it does, of course, through taxes. But when you own property, you really are kind of renting it. So what we're doing is kind of just releasing it out to the members that do happen to make their way into our community. It's not going to be for everybody. We're still going to have, kind of background checks and things like that for anybody that wants to come and live here for full time. But as far as like owning property, no one really is going to own it. And even EarthBlossom is going to be more of a benefactor rather than owner of the actual properties eventually. And that's just a way to protect it from the government being able to come in and take it away, or to overtax, or try to come in and dictate what we can and cannot do on our land. Yeah, so everything again is going to be owned under the EarthBlossom umbrella, and members would just have rights to certain plots of land, basically. So right now, the property that I'm on right now is a ranch. It's almost 40 acres in northern Arizona. We have another ranch about 4 miles away. It's about the same size, and those right now are owned by the one I'm on now is owned by Maria, and the other one is owned by me. And basically what that means is, like, if you go and look up in the register for the county, that our names will be on these parcels of land. Members of EarthBlossom will be able to have a small plot of land on one of these properties, or maybe even a room in one of our Casa Grande properties, which is more like a suburban kind of lifestyle. And we also have a lot more other properties that we are looking at getting. We want to have something that's remote, off grid, like where I am now, something that's suburban, something that's urban, and something that's more like a rural kind of area where it's not off grid, but it's in a rural area, but you still have utilities and access to the town water and things like that. So as far as like a member legally owning anything, basically what you would have is the rights to decide what you want to do on your piece of land, which is basically like leasing. You're basically leasing a part of the land, but for long periods of time. So if you wanted to lease for 20 years, that's kind of what we want people to do. Other conscious type communities do similar things where they have a member buy in, and then they give them like a small piece of land where they can build like a small house, where it's basically, they call them a bungalow, where it's like a room that has maybe a living space and a space to sleep. That's what a lot of people live in these types of communities. And then they have a shared space where you can go into a commercial size kitchen, and everybody's in there cooking meals, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then there's usually a shared bath house and things like that. So basically it's like you're renting a place. You have all the rights to do what you want on your spot, but you're also surrounded by community property and community amenities. Oh, and as far as animals go, yeah, we will have areas for people to keep animals. If you want to have an animal at your house, like your own dog or cat or things like that, that's something that you have to, try to keep within your own area. So that's still to be kind of worked out, actually. But as far as having farm animals, there's going to be, everybody will kind of have theirs all in a similar area, so we all can help each other take care of the animals. That's kind of the normal trend that we're seeing with a lot of blockchain games. Like a lot of the NFT collections, I should say, turned into gamifying their collections to make some of the cards more valuable than others, and to help get their followers and participants to be able to get rewarded, so they get some of their money back, or some of them even end up earning more money through these quote-unquote games that we see on the blockchain. And a lot of these games that we see are actually, they do have plans to develop actual video games that you can play in virtual realms and things like that, which is really cool. That's kind of where we want to go as well. But we're actually coining a new phrase, play to influence, which is basically, it's kind of like a crowdfunding meets meets it's like a gamified crowdfunding, I guess. It's like crowdfunding meets games. Crowdfunding meets play to earn in a way. So that's what we're trying to do, is play to influence, which means participants are going to be able to exchange cards and send things to certain wallets that tell us what to do in the real world, which, as far as we know, has not been done before, ever. It's something I've always wanted to do since 2017, when ERC 721s first came out on the Ethereum network, which means that's NFT. The NFT protocol was created on Ethereum, and I was actually writing Solidity code to create these NFTs back in 2017. The problem I found was Ethereum kept increasing in price. The network gets more congested, and it wasn't a real economical way to be able to capture the information we want to share with people through NFTs. So it got really expensive, and we've really just been waiting for something like Wax blockchain to come along, where the transactions are relatively free. The system isn't doing environmental harm. Wax actually is planting trees and is, putting money towards environmental projects to help offset their carbon footprint for the miners that they use to run the Wax blockchain. So anyways, to answer your question, sorry, I don't mean to sound like a politician, but yeah, I just kind of took your question and had to rephrase it, because we're not really doing what we call play to earn. We're doing what we call play to influence, because we find a lot of people get value out of supporting things that they want to see happen in the world. And this is just a great way for people to be able to do that, but also get something back in return. It's kind of like crowdfunding and being able to get rebates off of what you've given towards our projects, basically. And if you have the time and you really want to get in deep into these games that we're creating, then you can actually benefit and maybe come out ahead, and also be able to say, hey, I helped get this project going, which is kind of what we're looking for. And that's how we are going to make this thing long term, is by getting people to come in that just want to genuinely see the success of EarthBlossom and what we mean and what we want to do to help make the world a better place. I've actually been part of a few of those quote unquote rug pulls. I don't think a lot of them are doing it on purpose. I think a lot of them have they really want to create the project and they really want to stand behind it. It's just, to be honest, it's hard to find people that understand how to do coding on the blockchain. So I can see where a lot of these people work themselves into a corner and realize, okay, they can't get to that next step of their roadmap because of the failure of not having the team in place to make it happen. And that's one of the reasons why we're really focused on keeping it as simple as possible. We, instead of building these elaborate websites where you have to stake this NFT to this and you have to do this to this, it gets very complicated. I'm part of a few projects right now that have insane amounts of smart contracts written onto their account that allows the game to do so many different things. And to pull off that level of development, you have to have a real solid team that knows what they're doing. And I think even some of these really, really well-to-do projects have also run into just development slowdowns, just because of trying to find the right people that can pull off what they're trying to do. Again, like I said, we're trying to keep ours super simple. We're actually using Wax's basic features to help get our games going. We're starting out like with Name That Goat, where it's very simple. You just put in to the wallet you want to send, like you go to transfer the NFT of the goat that you want to name, and you just put in the wallet address you want to send it to, which is Name That Goat. And then in the memo section, you just simply write the name of the goat and you transfer it. The blockchain records it. We scrape the information and we display it on our website. It's really simple. Like I said, we're having a hard time even getting something that simple to work, consistently. So that's where I think a lot of these projects fall away, is because they're working on developing it, and they get it on the test net, and they think they got it working, and they go to the main net and it fails, and then everybody abandons the project to go to the next big thing. So that's where we're going to be different. Is, for one thing, we're not going to be charging outrageous amounts of money for our pack drops. We're not going to be putting out outrageous numbers of NFTs so that it floods the market, and we're just keeping things simple. And all of our NFTs are actually based on real life things. So like with Name That Goat, we're only creating these Name That Goat NFTs because we have 5 goats that need to get named. So after that's done, there's not going to be any more of those. Once all of them are named and someone wins the contest and gets the prizes, then we're not going to have to name those goats again. So we're not going to create those NFTs again. So they're going to become really rare. And some people, because they're cute baby goats, are going to want to own, maybe one of each of them, or maybe 10 of each of them, or whatever, or they want 10 of the favorite goat. So we're kind of letting people decide which of the NFTs are more popular by burning them, basically. So when they send in the Name the Goat NFT, we're holding on to some of them, but most of them are going to get burned, so that they're going to be very rare. Some of them are going to be sent back as rewards. Some of them are going to be auctioned off later. But the whole thing is that we're, first of all, Maria and I, this is our life, so we're here to stay. Like, no matter what happens, we're going to do what we have to do on a daily basis to keep things running. And our team is comprised of people who actually care about this project and care about seeing blockchain technology and NFTs reshape our world and create, a society where people can actually work together easily with very little friction, and everybody has their basic needs met. So that's our basis, and that's where our value comes from. And that means there really can never be a rug pull, because everything in our virtual realm is based on things in the real world. Oh yeah, to answer your question, which I kind of did earlier, is we're looking to release around mid-April. It might not be until the end of April. I kind of haven't gotten the white paper even done yet, and the coding for the website still is not there yet. And we're also building our collection on the test net on Wax as well. So we gotta get that collection finished up, which we're working on today. It should be done today or tomorrow, so we can start putting those NFTs on there. Then we are going to have a testnet event where everybody with a testnet account can come and play the game for free. We will have prizes, but for Name That Goat, the name that wins is not going to be the name for that goat until we do the contest again on the main net. But like I said, it'll probably be mid-April if we're lucky. And the last week of April is like the last, the longest I want to be able to wait to get this going. That's where we're going with McGoatersons and the virtual petting zoo. So there's a new technology that's been getting developed over the last couple decades called volumetric imaging, which is where you do a 3-dimensional scan of an object or a person or an animal. There's actually livestock volumetric imaging hardware out there that is one of the things that we would like to either have our own or find somebody in the area that wants to work together to create a studio for livestock imaging. But basically where we're going with our virtual realm of things is we want to create a virtual petting zoo. So you can take NFTs, like with Name That Goat. One of those NFTs, if you save it for a long time until this technology hits our ranch, which we're hoping will be by the end of 2023, early to mid 2024, where you'll be able to take one of our NFTs and be able to create an augmented reality version of the goat that you have the NFT of, if that makes sense. So basically, you can collect the McGoatersons, or collect the name the goats, or name that goat, or collect any of the animals that we're going to have NFT projects for in the future, and be able to put that into your own virtual petting zoo. So that's kind of where we're going with it. But as far as where we're at now, the analogy I'm always using is Atari. I don't know if anybody here knows about video game history, but Atari was really the big blockbuster breakthrough in video game technology, with classics like Pong and Space Invaders, things like that, where everything was very pixelated and everything just looked like, it was just kind of cheesy, but everybody loved it because, wow, I can play a game with a friend on the computer. And that was huge. That was like that generation's video game, right? And now today we have the same thing happening on the blockchain, where a lot of the most popular collections are literally like pixelated images. People are like loving that. And it's because the ones that are doing the pixelated images are actually getting it to be embedded right into the blockchain. They're using super low pixelated resolution right now because that's all that you can affordably put into the blockchain with the information that it takes to create an image in that way, using just code. But yeah, I think right now these new blockchain tech games are just like in their infancy. They're, like I was saying earlier, Axie Infinity is, I don't even think they're, what are they, 2 years old? No, maybe a year and a half old, 18 months at the most. And that game is, raking it in. They've done billions of dollars in sales, and they've got people all over the world actually earning a living wage, depending on what country they're in. A lot of these people are actually earning a living wage playing this play to earn game. And now everybody else is trying to get a game like that going so that they can have that kind of clout. But really, the technology's not there. It's going to take a while. Some big projects are working on it. They've been working on it just as long as Axie and haven't launched anything. They just have communities they're building and talking about their project and leaking cool visuals of their game and things like that. But it's still all a long way off. And what we feel is, like, with the 3D, the virtual petting zoo, like, that's something that's way more attainable over the next couple of years than it is to say, oh, everyone's going to have an Oculus and be able to play these games and it's going to be mass adoption, where it's like, we're not looking for mass adoption. We're looking for slowly building what we're doing with a real strong foundation. So as it grows, it just keeps growing. We don't want it to ever fail. So that's why we're never going to overhype. We're never going to try to exceed what we know is attainable. As far as the McGoatersons goes, I think what we're doing with Name That Goat and the McGoaterson NFTs that actually mine currency, which we have a whole different spin on that, which could, it definitely does add to the addictive level. I feel like the more options you give people, the more luck starts to come into play rather than skill. And when you start doing things and getting an intermittent response, or a reward, I should say, an intermittent reward, that's when it becomes kind of addictive. And competition also plays a role, which you're not really seeing any of these play to earn games yet. You don't even have a game out where I can challenge you to some sort of a battle or a luck of the draw, where, I put something into the game, you put something in the game, I lose something if I lose, you win something if you win. That's just being talked about right now, and it's really not even happening. Where with this play to influence, or it's like everybody's going to be doing their own thing, but at the same time with a leaderboard. Let's say you want to name the goat Billy, and somebody else wants to name the goat, I don't know, Bucky. you say you got Bucky and Billy, and so you send in 20 name that goat NFTs of this one goat that you want to name Bucky, and this other person sends in 20 that of the same goat, they want to name it Billy. So now you've got a tie, and so someone's got to keep sending in another one until their name has more, and they end up winning naming that goat. It becomes addictive because you don't know if you're going to win, and if you do win, you win pretty big, and if you don't win, you're not left empty-handed. You still have some stuff that's going to be valuable later on, especially as we reveal more uses for the NFTs as we open up other projects. But yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be copying what we do. I think a lot of people are going to say, why didn't I think of that? And I think a lot of people are going to start using the memo section of the NFTs to make their games more interactive and easier to use. As far as return on investment, that's where we kind of want to redefine things as well. So everybody in the world is pretty much stuck on the fiat monetary system where everything's about money, and it makes sense. We all need money to pay our bills. We need to be able to pay for a place to live. We need to pay for our food. We need to buy things like clothes and transportation and all that kind of stuff. So of course, everybody's always thinking about a return in terms of finance, because if you put money in, you usually want to get money back, right? Well, do have a lot of that worked into what we're doing. Like I said, there's rebates for people that want to put money in to support our projects and to help, like things like name our goats and adopt plants and things like that. But our real return on investment is showing you like, hey, we're doing really good things with these resources, and we're helping to influence other people to do really great things with these types of resources. A lot of really popular TV shows are, about like off-grid living, people living out in the middle of nowhere, or, rehabbing. Like one of these really popular reality shows now is off-grid rescues, where people just love to see a struggling project get saved by somebody and turn everything around, and everybody's dreams come true. So that's kind of like the ethos. People pay, they subscribe to these TV channels so they can watch shows like this, and that's their way of supporting projects like that. So what we're doing, because we know TV's dying, is using NFTs for people to be able to follow along with our story, put resources in when they can, and if they play the game right, they can end up getting some investment back. So to answer your question, your return on investment is going to be, hey, this project is getting better and better by the day, and I get to follow along with the story and say, hey, I'm helping out with this. And then as far as financial rewards go, just like any project that deals with farming, ranching, real estate, over time, the value is always going to build, because these are based on things in the real world. So as far as ROI goes, are you talking about how soon would you get your money back? Well, you might never get your money back. But could you get your money back? Yes. Could you get more than your money back? Yes. And will you get value no matter what happens? 100% absolutely. You're going to see that something good happened. We talked about the rug pulls earlier. Okay, there's some games where I saw people invest hundreds of thousands of dollars just to watch the game crash, and they end up losing, enough money where the average person would just be, it would ruin their life if they lost that much money. So they're stuck with these NFTs that are not valuable. They never will be valuable. There's no way for them to exchange those NFTs or wait for them to come back and have their value, where the NFTs that we have are continuously becoming more scarce because people are always going to be given the opportunity to win something if they burn their NFTs. So just that alone is always going to make the NFTs become more valuable. And then, like I said, the NFTs are also usually based on something in the real world in some sort of way. So yeah, there's always going to be a return on investment. That's our whole point of doing this, is that you're going to see something good happen with your money, or you're going to maybe even get more than what you put in. And also, like, if you did make your way to becoming a member of, one of our properties and getting yourself your own plot, you could end up having a place to live for 20 years for, you might have only invested $1,000, and then you played your cards right and got involved with the games and did what you had to do. And eventually you turned that $1,000 into, oh, I got a lease on this plot in land in Arizona, United States for 20 years. Now that'd be a huge return on investment. Is it monetary? In a way, because you're not having to pay for a place to live anymore because you have that lease. So there's just a lot of ways to get a return in what we're doing. As far as games go, what we want to do is create more of a virtual space rather than a game, kind of like Decentraland. They basically just created a world where you can go in and own a piece of land and build on it and have people come visit you, and you can hold events and communicate with other people in a virtual way. And that's kind of more the lines that we're going to be going, is creating virtual spaces. And eventually we want to be able to make our whole ranch an immersive space that you can visit virtually. That's kind of, that's one of the things in our white paper as well. So, and that's something that also isn't too far off. But yeah, as far as partnering with big game studios, we do have an idea for a game, which we don't want to mention at all, because I know for a fact people would be like, oh, that's a great idea. But there's a really old school game that a lot of people probably forgot even existed. As far as I know, because when I mentioned to other people, they're like, oh, yeah, I think I remember that. But it's a really obscure game, but it made a lot of today's games a possibility, and just because of the idea of it. And we're going to be creating a game called, I'll at least tell you what we're thinking of calling it, Gangsta Goats, where you'll be able to use one of our goat NFTs, whether it's name that goat, meet the goats, feed that goat, or McGoatersons NFT. You'll be able to bring that NFT into the game, and it'll create a character for you, and you'll be able to play out this game that, like I said, I'm not going to mention the game that we're going to be kind of mimicking, but it's going to blow everybody's minds. It's going to be pretty fun. If that does become popular, then yeah, we might consider turning it into like an actual, VR type video game where you run around and, act these things out like it's really happening to you.